Yes, okay. That's right. So I'm here, Gidon Ariel from Root Source. I'm here with my good friend Greg Temke. Is that how you pronounce it? With an E at the end or an A?
And E, yeah, Temke.
Temke. Okay. So Greg is a pastor at a church in um, Memphis, Tennessee.
Close. A little town called Millington.
Millington near Memphis.
Yeah. Just 10, 15 miles. Yes.
Okay. So we've already spoken a few times, and I think we've already been on Root Source Conversations once or twice. So the way that it works is that we just shoot the breeze, and wherever God brings us, that's the way I like to do it.
That's right. There's been a lot going on for you and for me. I injured a knee. I think I told
Hmm.
you. Yeah,
That
my
might have been.
yeah my and it's doing very well. Actually, I'm probably at about 80% without surgery, and
Thank God.
I'm very thankful. So that's better. And then in my world, I've been getting busy. Gidon, I talked to you before once about Kufi and the possibility of doing stuff with them. And so officially, I've now become the Tennessee rep for the state of Tennessee, and
Fantastic.
we'll begin that about the first of September.
Wow.
So I'm kind of onboarding now, but I learned something very interesting about the organization. So at the very top is a lady named Diana Hagee, of course, John Hagee's wife, and
Right.
John started that 21 years ago. But somebody that co-leads it with her is a Jewish lady named Shari, and she's from Florida. And I met her on Zoom the other day. So you have a Gentile and a Jewish lady co-leading together the relationship, which I think is brilliant myself.
Me too.
I just think that is so neat. So I'm very excited. I'll be going down to San Antonio in about a month to meet the team and take 3 or 4 days down there. And so I'm very excited about that.
So is that going to be like a full-time job or a part-time job or a volunteer or what is it?
It's about a day a week. I'll pretty much use my day off from the church, and my part will be to connect leaders or pastors primarily to the relationship of the Jewish people and build bridges and also do things that occasionally, like I may speak at a church on a
Sure.
Sunday night, Wednesday night, or possibly a Sunday morning a couple times a year. But the hope, and then also helping them to go to Israel. The organization, believe it or not, has sent 17,000 pastors to Israel in the last 20 years.
When you say 17,000 pastors, each one once, or some people were lucky to come a few times and they're counted twice. Not that it makes that much of a difference. 17,000 is a nice, hefty bunch.
Well, I think it's pretty much one and
Wow.
done, and now there's I mean they have leaders that repeat, but it's 17,000 different pastors.
So that,
Um,
and that's not necessarily one pastor per church. In other words, it's possible that a church might send more than one pastor.
well, their primary focus is on lead pastors,
Yeah.
the pastor that leads the church. Now they do have a separate thing with Kufi where youth pastors, now they're trying to get into the youth, where youth pastors are encouraged to go and be a part of that on like a youth leader, youth pastors trip. And I don't know how large those are, but I do know my youth pastor has already been extended that opportunity to go. And
Wow. It
yeah,
helps when your it helps when your boss is the boss.
well, I'm excited for him. It will
Of
be a
course.
life-changing experience for him, but I just think it's incredible that they actually provide this for pastors. Up until a year ago, I never really heard of Kufi. Um,
Amazing.
and so
Unbelievable.
probably one of the top three conferences I've ever been to, but for me, one of the nights that was so inspiring was the Monday night of the conference. They did a night to honor Israel. And so they had these American and Jewish flags, Israel flags, all over the auditorium.
Sure.
And they were playing these beautiful Hebrew songs. And I mean, people got into it, man. I mean, they were jumping and dancing and I mean, celebrating. And it was really cool. And so that's kind of what led me into that process.
Very good.
Yeah.
Um, Now you said 17,000. I'm just wondering, there's 50 states. Some are bigger than others, of course. And some are, but how many churches are there? My gosh, I wonder.
Well, in America, there are about 350,000 different churches in America.
When you say different, in other words, a building or even not a building, but where a specific leader leads a group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
350,000.
I'm a part of the assemblies of God, and we have around 13,500 churches in America. Now our the like, but of course that's just at USA.
Right.
Yeah, and then you have and a lot of the American churches are in the process of what's the word uh, transition in a sense. They have struggled with kind of figuring out in a way who they are. And so some of them have embraced, doctrines that are anti-biblical. And a lot of these denominations have had massive amounts of people who have, and congregations who have left their movement. But at one point, maybe 10 years ago, America had about 390,000 churches. So there has been a reduction of churches in America.
About 10%.
Yeah,
10, 15%.
yeah, and very possibly more. I have a good friend who sits on a board in the state of Tennessee, and his denomination has about 1,200 churches just in Tennessee. It's a larger movement,
What is
and
that? Southern Baptist?
uh-huh. And he shared with me recently that in Tennessee, just the state of Tennessee, 1/3 of the churches do not have a pastor in place.
Not for lack of availability, but for lack of interest.
Right. They just don't have a well, to use the phrase, they don't have a good root system coming up. And the pipeline is not very strong. And I say that this is probably that way in many movements right now. I would say some
Sure.
are worse than others, as far as that goes. But and so America needs to figure out, church wise, like that, the church is not a social club. The church doesn't exist to coddle the members, but it exists for the purpose of empowering the members to be active participants in the presentation of the gospel, which is a
Right.
novel idea. And another thing that's just happened, this will be Friday this week. So, Jason Kaplan.
Sure.
Okay. So we've been talking and meeting, and he talked to his, I call him the lead rabbi. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but Rabbi Lichter, who's at the Baron Hirsch Synagogue. So they got talking, and they've invited myself and my wife to attend synagogue this Friday.
Very
And
nice.
I'm just overjoyed, overjoyed. So I'm going to meet Jason. In fact, I told Jason every time I get around him, I just feel very blessed.
He's a
And
blesser for sure.
oh man, he's just such a great guy. And so we're going to go over there and be a part of and Jason said, now I have to warn you, Pastor Greg, Friday we're having a bar mitzvah. Says it's going to be kind of rocky. So I can't imagine the synagogue being rocky, but in his words, he said it's going to be rocky.
He'll enjoy it, I assure you.
Yeah, I know I will. I've been wanting to learn and grow and just develop, and so I'm deeply excited. And so then we'll go back to his house and celebrate Shabbat with his family.
Tell me, getting back to your new position, how many churches are there in Tennessee?
Good question. I'm sure it's in the ten,
Probably about 10,000, I would guess.
yeah, 7, 8,000. I mean, Tennessee's a long state. Um, you
And you're
know,
all the way on the west.
yeah. My primary focus will be more than likely Nashville and Memphis, just
Of
because
course.
of the distance in between. It would be my primary focus. But and so of course I want to get people connected, and this is new ground for me. How do I? Well, as I was telling Shari the other day on the interview, because I think I had 3 different interviews. I've been very surprised by the lack of biblical knowledge that pastors have and people about Israel. Like, shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is blowing my mind. Recently, Gidon, back in early July, I think one of the times we haven't met for a minute, but I had a guy in my church and said, "Well, I just don't know if I believe all this stuff about Israel." And I go, "Well, wait a minute. Now the Bible is written exclusively by Jewish men, exclusively. 40 authors, 39 was, started out being Jewish, and Luke, of course, converted to Judaism." I said, "What's there to not understand?" And he said, "Well, I just don't believe all that." I said, "Well, I'm just going to tell you something." I said, I love you, but you don't know your Bible, and you need to read your Bible and research it." And I said, "I challenge you, go read it and come back and talk to me." So,
Ah,
but I have been amazed. So I'm trying to figure out how I can best engage one pastors, with this message. We have to stand with Israel, but also this is why we stand with Israel. And of course, if you reach a pastor, you reach a congregation. So if I can influence that pastors, I can influence the congregation.
that's right.
So and I may do some things like I might do a mini sort of Israel Jewish American kind of service, if you will, in West Tennessee, just to sort of get some moving parts going, in some churches. Um, but help me out. If you would. So this stuff of being so political that it is now, that it has become in the sense of the interpretation from people, like people in churches, interpret involvement often with the nation of Israel is political. I don't understand that. Like, to me, that's just nonsense. But has it always been this way? And I've just been just been out of the loop.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about. Are you saying that you understand? Let me see if I get this right.
Yeah,
As we've been talking, this Israel right now there's a state of Israel, a member of the United Nations. It's a nation state.
right.
It's, it's uh, with the Jewish people, like me, like Jason, uh, with the
Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I just lost you for, yeah. When you put your hands up, after that, it went away.
I uh
You're
I now we're back. Okay,
you're getting better.
so weird.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll start over.
There you
You've
go.
got
You're full on.
you've got the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, and you've got the Jewish people, and you've got the biblical nation of Israel, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And as far as I'm concerned, there's a heavy overlap. with that, of all of them. And to
Mhm.
say this modern state of Israel has nothing to do with the Bible is, I don't know where people get that from.
No, I don't either. But I have been somewhat, amazed by people who have viewed Israel in a political sense and not viewed it as a biblical sense, God's chosen people, and all those things that I believe. And so, it's been a learning experience for me the last, 12 months. I mean, ever since 2023 with October 7th, I preached a couple messages then
Yes.
to the church and said, here is why we support Israel. But I have, like I said, maybe it's always been there. Maybe this misunderstanding, this information has always been there, and I just didn't know it.
You mean I'll use the term, maybe it's too strong, the anti-Israel information, the
Yeah.
anti-Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that it's a very long story. If I may try to approach it.
Okay.
First of all, you have the traditional Christianity, the traditional church, which, for various reasons, from from its initial beginnings, had anti-Semitism in it, and that I think was also for various reasons, but a big reason was that there was a Gentilization of the church. In other words, the church, if I can use that word, what I mean by the body of people who accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. So they started out as Jews. In other words, they're in the
Right.
Bible. It's all Jewish
Right.
people. And they had intra issues with Jews at the time that did not accept Jesus. So this dynamic of I believe in Jesus and there are Jews that don't. So that sounds like some friction going on. You
Yeah.
add, you add to that the natural, I would say natural, the classic idea of anti-Semitism. People don't like Jews at all. So even though the initial Gentile Christians were brought into the church by Jews, by Paul, by other missionaries, I would say, other people who were evangelists, who again were ethnic Jews that had a certain faith model, a certain faith dynamic going on over there. There were different Jews that disagreed, which is okay. To this day, you have Jews that disagree with each other,
Right.
and
Right.
certainly in those days, we're talking about uh, shortly before the destruction of the Second Temple. That was when Jesus was on the earth, and so you can ask any knowledgeable Jew today, and they'll say right before the destruction of the Second Temple, the Jews were fighting with each other more. That was the reason why the temple was destroyed and the Jews went into exile. Primarily not because the Romans beat them up. That's general history might say that. It's because the Jews themselves couldn't agree on things and they were fighting with each other. So it wasn't just because of Jesus. There was the Jesus sect, there was the rabbinic sect, there was the Essenes, there was the Pharisees. All of these different kind of people were going on, and nobody could get together. Does that
Right.
sound familiar?
Right.
So anyway, so the Jesus sect, if I can use that term, or the Christians, whatever you want to call it, when they started bringing in Gentiles, that was okay. Everybody was the Jews and the Gentiles amongst the Jesus believers. There was obviously some initial difficulties, but in general, they were all one new man, right? All believing in it. But then more and more Gentiles came in. Some Gentiles came in that had their traditional anti-Semitism going on.
Gotcha.
So they infected the church with anti-Semitism. Of course, I'm, amongst other things, talking about some of the church fathers. I don't know if you can tell me, or if I can, or you can look it up, but the concept of anti-Semitic writings in the church fathers, you know what? I might be able to find what I'm talking about right over here. I have this book that I published called The List: Persecution of Jews by Christians Throughout History. Have you seen this book?
I have not. It looks interesting.
Yeah, you look it up. Look up root source, The List, and you'll find it.
Okay.
And it tells about 2,000 years of Christian anti-Semitism.
Wow, that's perfect.
It's a very important book. At the very beginning over here, let me see if I can get to the very antiquity. This is before. 1 second.
The list.
Uh,
Uh,
here, here. Nah, I'm not. I don't know this stuff good enough as far as there's Mark. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna see a word. I'm not gonna say it. But you can look that up and find it. Anyway, so there were seeds of anti-Semitism within
okay.
the church, within the New Testament itself. There are passages that are understood, that understood anti-Semitically.
I gotcha.
I would say often it's when, first of all, I don't know exactly about the editing, but there were obviously, as I just mentioned before, Jews in Jesus' time that were against Jesus, but they were also against somebody else, and somebody else. They were all against each other. And of course, the only people who were supportive of Jesus were Jews.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so what you had here was, and I think it's called, the word is internecine, internal um, brotherly, like a civil war of sorts. Basically, that's what it was. You had
Okay.
the pro, but it wasn't just the pro Jesus. It was There was about a dozen different sects, all fighting against each other.
Yeah, I gotcha. What was, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From the believers of Jesus and the Christians' perspective, it was the Christians against the Jews.
Hmm.
But the reality was, it was these Jews against these Jews.
Wow. Okay. 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 Gotcha. Gotcha. What was there ever a moment in history like because I've been studying a lot lately about the books of the Bible, the apocryphal books, and different things about when they came into being. And like there were 7 Gentile councils, there were 21 Catholic councils.
Right.
Yeah, they had a lot of them. And was there ever a time that you know of when um, in those early days of the centuries were the church that would be called the Jesus Church today, where
Yes.
they came out and said, very poignantly that we don't support the Jewish people. I've been reading recently about the Book of Enoch, and of course the Book of Enoch is not written by Enoch. It's written, it's ascribed to a number of Jews who wrote it. And
It's like you said, it's an apocryphal. It's out of the biblical. It's not in the Jewish Bible, that's for sure.
yeah. Well, I have a little theory I've worked on recently. So the 27 books of the New Testament were pretty well established, within the first century by largely the people who were Jewish who wrote the New Testament.
Right.
So they were established. Of course, the Old Testament was already established, hundreds of years before Jesus even showed up on the scene, right? So then you go forward and you go into some of these councils and you get into some of this apocryphal stuff, and then you get into some dialogue, it seems, about the Jews and the Gentiles. And I've just wondered, has there been a moment in that history in the timeline where there was a turning point and some of the early beginnings of the church?
Is that again? We don't have much time. I've got somebody else coming in, but the turning point was Constantine. Constantine was a world leader. He was the emperor of Rome, and he
Yeah,
decided to take on Christianity as his religion and call it the religion of the entire empire.
I
So
remember.
what happened then is that up until then, Jesus followers, Jewish Jesus followers, and the grafted on non-Gentile Jesus followers were a minority amongst the majority of Jews. In other words, in Jewish history, the rabbinic Jews won that debate, if it were. So and there were numerous um, Jewish sects that that are differentiated. They differed with the majority sect of Judaism, and so they were. History pushed them out, and I think that Christianity might have been on its way out as well until it really won the jackpot, and Constantine said it's going to be the religion of my entire empire, and then you had a tremendous influx of Gentiles, like billions, I don't know, and it was easy for them to latch on to the anti-Semitism because remember, who was Constantine? He was head of the Roman Empire. 100 or a couple hundred years before that, who did the Romans destroy? Israel, the Jews. So they were
Right,
all. We put up a good fight.
right, right,
So in
right.
other words, those Jews we hate, we don't like them. So here's a chance for all of those Romans to take in their, I'll use the term anti-Semitism, into the new imperial religion. Now, you don't know about that stuff because Christianity has gone through so much. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Luther and Protestantism turned Christianity upside down, and Azusa Street that also turned Christianity upside down as far as you're concerned. So there's a lot going on over here. And again, I would say that the biggest points were Constantine and May 15. Constantine and the start of Israel. That was the day that
Okay.
Israel was established, right? May 15th, 1948, right?
Yep, May 15, 1948. Yep, so, yes, sir.
I'm familiar with the Hebrew date, but I just said something very important. It just came up to me. Those are the two most important points in Christian Jewish dynamics. Constantine and May 15.
Yeah.
Why? Because May 15th was when you tell me, can a nation be born in one day?
Yeah.
And it happened on May 15th, and that had to not for everybody, but for thousands and probably millions of Christians, it made them revisit their faith model vis-a-vis the Jewish people, and for themselves as well. They said, "Look, up all these years, God wasn't keeping his covenant with the Jewish people. Look, they're scattered all over the world. They're tread upon. All of a sudden, he was waiting
Mhm.
for the right time and made
That's
it
right.
such a big
Right.
miracle that we'd have to notice, and that changed a lot. So there you
Mm.
go. That's great. We're gonna have to break now because somebody's coming in a moment.
Okay.
Let me just check the calendar to make sure that we're meeting again in 2 weeks. There it is. See you same time in two
Okay.
weeks, my friend.
Thank you for the day. I really enjoyed it.
That was good. Oh, and I got to thank you. I got to thank God. I thank you for letting God put that idea in my mouth, and you can take it and use it. You tell those people over there. I'm telling you, they're going to love it in Ko-Fi. The Constantine and May 15.
Okay. Hey, that sounds great. Thanks, Gidon.
Shalom, shalom.